Good evening and welcome to Real Talk with Anele, coming to you live on SABC 3. Listen, it's so good to be back. I really missed each and every one of you that tunes in on SABC 3 weekdays from 6 to 7. A special thanks to the beautiful Azanya. I saw what you were saying to Azanya. You're so pretty. You never tell me I'm pretty, but it's fine. It's okay. It's okay. You and I will talk about that. Thank you so much to her for holding things down whilst I was away. On the show today, his performance as the vindictive and the master of manipulation, Barker Haynes, has earned him a place as one of South Africa's most iconic villains. Robert Whitehead is in the building. But before we do that, have a look at this.
We always, in Africa, as young people, we always talk about wanting leadership and wanting to be seen as leaders.
Welcome to the inaugural Breaking Down Borders Africa Youth Summit, one that I think is here to stay.
Young people must strive to be the best, and if not, at least be amongst the best.
The Breaking Down Borders Africa Youth Summit. The summit is a platform to commemorate Africa Month through engagements with established leaders. The summit is important because it's created by Africa's youth.
Interesting. We have Lorato Modongo, who is here to tell us a little bit more about that program and how it's trying to implement solutions on some of the issues facing the youth on the African continent. She was awarded the Mandela Rhodes Scholarship to pursue her master's, as well as the 2015 Mandela Washington Fellowship under President Barack Obama's Young African Leaders Initiative for Civic Engagement. She is the co-founder of Teen Lead Botswana, which offers mentorship for teenagers in Botswana. She is here today to tell us what one eats in the morning to be this brilliant.
Hello, Anele.
Hello, Lorato. How are you?
I'm well, thank you.
I'm thinking, you know, there's parents who watch the show with their children, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm going through your achievements, and I'm thinking, I hope that some mothers looking at their child like, Bona what other kids are doing, huh?
If it's inspiring them, then that's good.
Were
That's
you
what we're
always
trying
like
to
this
do.
as a kid as well, where you were just breaking down boundaries?
Well, yes.
Yeah.
For the bulk of my childhood, I always felt a sense of responsibility and duty towards being great, being a young leader, and community developing my community, basically. Yes.
I'm always very, not wary, I don't know if wary is the word that I'm looking for, but I'm always very interested and curious when these summits happen, where it's, you know, like the one you went to, the Young African Leaders, you know, with President Barack Obama, is how does one identify leadership outside of academic excellence?
For me, leadership is about serving. Serving our communities, impacting, you know, being an inspirational human being in your community. So even if, because academic excellence does not necessarily measure impact, you know, there are many other socio-economic, political spaces that young people excel in them that are not necessarily tied to the academics. So you find that, as I have already said, for me, leadership was about serving. So for young people to serve, that's actually them saying, we're here, we can lead our communities, our countries, our continent even. So servitude,
That's the one.
That's
So,
leadership for us.
If I was then watching you, right, and I'm now picking people to, you know, to get these fellowships, you know, be it the Nelson Mandela Rhodes Scholarship, be it the Barack Obama African Leaders, you know, Fellowship in Washington, what do you think when they were reading about you or watching, what do you think made them go, yo, that's our girl?
I think the love for Africa, I mean, as you saw from the clips of the summit that we are actually initiating, or we're actually busy with currently, because it's Africa Month next month, right?
Yes,
May.
in May.
And we're busy working with the Breaking Down Borders Africa Youth Summit. They would be like, okay, we want to do this because this is our Africa, this is our continent, and we want to build it, we want to develop it, and we would want to be exactly what she is doing.
Okay, so let's talk about breaking down borders. You know, at face value, and from what I see, and you know, I've seen it, you know, over the years that it's happened, and if you look at what it's named, it's basically saying in 2018, there's no ways you should be a youth from Nigeria and from Botswana and Uganda and Kenya. You are simply African youth And you guys are talking on Twitter every day. You may as well be talking about building the continent, right?
Oh, yes.
Is that what it's about?
Oh, yes. First things first, Africa is at the center of the dialogue at the summit. That African young leaders, they need to dismantle all these barriers that are sort of hindering them from collaborating, the inferiority complex as well, and all the barriers that are hindering them from engaging, collaborating together, because the platform was actually created to create networks for partnerships and for collaborations for young Africans all over the 54 countries on the continent. So we get them together to come to this platform with youth policy makers so that they can dialogue about these issues. So you find that we have a summit, the conferencing part itself, we have different young leaders who speak to different themes, because we have thematic areas. For example, we have youth participation and good governance. We have eliminating harmful cultural and social practices. So we have so many young people that are doing such amazing work in their countries. Just from the top of my head, we have a young woman by the name Naomi Mora, who's on the BBC list 100 young women last year in 2017. She's coming here to speak about her work, best practices, recommendations. How do we ensure that young Africans are working together for the development of the continent? How do we make sure that they form those partnerships that we're talking about? If you have products, how do we make sure that other young people, but not just young people, other Africans can consume those products, can consume those services, you know, so that we build this continent together?
Okay, it sounds wonderful, but what hurdles do you run into? Because I'm thinking, even the fact that we are of different cultures, different religions, different governance, you know, there must be so many red tapes, because you touch your head like, Anele, you have no idea.
Not even. I'm just getting excited, because that difference in culture is what we love. It's actually a leverage point for us. So we are saying, even if you're from Zimbabwe or Botswana or Uganda, you find that as young people, we are faced with similar challenges. They present themselves in different ways, but they're quite similar. I mean, youth unemployment, entrepreneurship, the hurdles that young people in different countries are faced with are pretty much the same. So we are saying, how are we going to engage with these youth policy makers to say, look, these are our problems, and we think these are the ways that we can solve them. As young Africans, we are coming up with the solutions ourselves.
So when you guys then come up with these intended policies and solutions, and then people go back home, do you then have we check up on you, hey, when are you doing what we said we're going to do? Otherwise, we were just meeting to complement each other on our outfits.
Yes, definitely. Remember the three things I talked about: the networking, the partnerships, and the collaborations. Yeah, so from last year, for example, now this year, 2018, right? We had young people who were part of the summit as delegates. They worked together on projects. That's one of the key outcomes. So we can see that the international collaborations. I'll use myself an example. I hosted the team when they came to Botswana, because they did a tour through other countries looking for networking, sourcing for networking opportunities, right? So I hosted them when they were in Botswana, and then I became a delegate last year, and I was speaking on African women and the transformation agenda, right? And this year, I'm in the planning committee. So these are the opportunities that we're talking about. Yeah, so we are saying, if you're an entrepreneur and you want a market in, say, Guinea-Bissau, and here's a young person from Guinea-Bissau, they're connecting you, then you'll be able to penetrate the markets and go in there. If you're an academic, you have a topic or a research area that you're interested in, and there's a young woman or young man in Kenya, for example, working on the same project, you can publish together, you can document together. So those are such issues that we're trying to push out.
So can I just rock up at the summit? Like,
you have to be between the ages of 18 and 35. So you have
to be young.
Yes. You have to be passionate about Africa. You have to be all for community development. You have to be very impactful in your community. So we have a website, www.breakingdownbordersafrica.com. So young people can go to that website, check it out. We have all our thematic areas, our plenaries, all the confirmed speakers in there, and they can apply to come through. And the summit is from the 14th to the 18th of May, 2018, right here in Johannesburg. And our theme is African youth building our legacy, because we are saying we're taking ownership of our continent, we are shaping the narrative, and we're pushing Africa to where we want it to be. We're reimagining ourselves into the future of Africa.
Lorato, thank you so much. That website again, www.breakingdownbordersafrica.com.
Yeah.
Got it. Go over there. A lot of you always email us. You email the show and you say, guys, I want to do this, I want to do that. This sounds like the summit, which is the first step in the right direction. Now, Lorato is one of many young African leaders participating in the summit, and if you've listened to her, I want to go to a place where there's 1,000 of them. After the break, we meet yet another young leader of the Breaking Down Borders, Thuli Lekanyile. And later on in the show, we have ourselves veteran actor Robert Whitehead, aka Barker Haynes. I'm so excited. Come back. Young people from 15 countries will take part in the two-day conference summit that's hosted by Breaking Down Borders. This is where they'll gather to discuss some of the challenges facing the continent and come up with solutions. I'm now joined by lecturer and PhD candidate in the HIV Pathogenesis Research Unit at Wits University, which will also be part of this momentous occasion. But before we get into that, she just said something to me, and I'm just like, girl, we're not just going to move on like you didn't say that. What happened on Friday?
So on Freedom Day, I got an email from the Obama Foundation, and they were like, well, you've made it to the Obama Leadership, Africa Leadership's fellowship. Yeah. So that is really exciting, because I mean, after he's gone out of office, he's now doing this for the first time as part of the Obama Foundation, that he's trying to bring together and develop young leaders in Africa, as opposed to in previous occasions, because this takes place here. So we don't have to go out of the country where he's coming here.
Also, this is when he's coming for the Nelson Mandela speech as well.
Yes, so it wraps up with the speech on the 18th.
Put in a good word for us, man. We want him to come here for an interview. Just reply to the email, like, thank you guys, I'll be there, but Anele. This is amazing. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Well, what does the email, like, because obviously the email comes from an address. What does it say? Does it say Obama, Obizi?
Obama. I wish it said Obizi. Obama Foundation, I think, yeah.
Okay. Well, then let's talk about where you start and how you end up here getting such emails, right? There's a lot of things that are written in your CV for you. No, there are a lot of things, and I'm just like, well done. I mean, are you on your way to study your PhD? Are you being considered for it?
So I am currently a PhD candidate. I'm doing it now, yeah.
Okay. And how do you get then on why did you pick the path that you took?
So initially I wanted to be a medical doctor, and I actually didn't get in. But I got into the undergraduate, sort of like the foundation year for medicine, and I fell in love with what happens behind the scenes of medicine. So understanding diseases, for example, like I work for the HIV Pathogenesis Research Unit, so it's really about how HIV carries itself and how we interact with HIV and how we can create therapeutics and preventative measures for HIV, for example. So I fell in love with really what happens behind the scenes of medicine as an industry itself. How does the doctor know what to give you?
Yes, you that guy. So, I mean, it's if you look at it, it's failure to not get into medicine. Did you take it like that? Did it knock you down?
So at the time, I was just like, I'm going to do the foundation year, and I'm going to apply again, and I'm going to get in. And when I was in the university, and this is the nice thing about university, it exposes you to so much more than what we are told about at a high school level and at basic education level, because there's not an extensive level or an extensive amount of career guidance within basic education sector. So you get to university and you learn that there's mechatronics and all sorts of other weird and wonderful things that you can actually participate in.
That actually interests you more than what you thought you wanted to do. So what's Nkathuto?
So Nkathuto Edu Propeller is a non-profit organization that I co-founded with Utandega Mhlanga. And really what we do, so we're researchers, right? And we conduct research with the aim of finding solutions to problems, right? So all we're saying is we've been inducted as researchers to do it at postgraduate level.
Yeah.
But we're saying there are problems at basic education level as well. The 18-year-old, the 13-year-old, the 8-year-old has a problem at home that she encounters every day. How's about we go in and we infiltrate that basic education space and we teach these kids how to conduct research for the purpose of identifying problems, finding solutions, but we don't end there. We understand what is happening with the world and direction that the world is taking in terms of innovation and entrepreneurship. Then we say, child, the solution, how do you turn it into a business case? Let's teach you those concepts.
At 8 years old?
At
13
so
years
now
old.
we're at grade 8 to grade 11. So we're talking 12, 13 to about 17, 18. And Anele, you must see how amazing these solutions that these kids come up with, you know?
Because obviously at that age, you think, you don't limit your way of thinking, right?
No.
So by the time then we get introduced to being able to be a problem solver, an inventor, an entrepreneur, you're like 25 and your mind's already been, you know, jaded, jilted in a certain way. So you don't think like a fresh 13-year-old.
They're so creative, and I mean, they've got, and they think far, far bigger. The possibilities for them are endless.
Yeah.
So as soon as you say something to them along the lines of, guys, maybe you can come to the summit, the African Leadership Summit, then they think about how their solutions that they think about for their communities can actually contribute to breaking down the borders. So from a young age, we're saying to them, we're inducting them and giving them that mindset to say the problems are ours, we own them. And so that it channels them into a particular direction when they go into university. So things that happen to us where we stumble upon biotechnology won't happen to them.
So we're currently running, I don't want to call it a competition, it's the celebration of, you know, teachers, right? We're giving a teacher a big amount of money for being the teacher of the year, as voted for by, you know, as what's the word I'm looking for? Suggested by viewers. So you come and you give your teacher and say, this is my teacher, she is Tulile, the reason I like her is because of this. Who is this teacher that sparked such an interest and a flame that refuses to die in your life? Because I want another teacher to hear about this teacher of yours.
Sure, there's so many of them. I come from a family of teachers, and that's where it starts. So my mom, my grandmother, my aunt.
Heroes? Are they not just unsung
They're
heroes?
totally unsung heroes because they do so much to not only inspire us as their children, but so many more people, you know? But I mean, even at school, I mean, I had in primary school, I think it was Mrs. Weber. She was fantastic. She was my grade 7 teacher.
And
she
Mrs.
just
Weber,
always...
was she hot?
Oh, she was hot.
Yeah, my Mrs. Weber was also hot.
She was really hot.
Next one?
Nice bod. And then there was Mrs. Norris or Mrs. Aaron. Oh, she was Miss Aaron, and she's Mrs. Aaron. And I had her for like 3 years of my high school career as a home class teacher. And I mean, even when I speak to her now, because at least now and then I still speak to her, they're just those people that are not necessarily in the STEM areas or in the science or technology, engineering, maths areas, but they're those people that stood in front of you and made you think that the world was yours for the taking. Mrs. Langa, my Zulu teacher, she was fantastic, and you know, she would speak to you in Vernac and tell you, you must know what you're doing, and you must carry yourself like this. And for me, I mean, those people are phenomenal.
So are these, you know, the type of people we're going to be rubbing shoulders with at this Breaking Down Border Summit? Is that what you're looking to do, the Miss Webers and the Miss Norris and the Miss Langas?
So here's what Breaking Down Borders is going to do. It's going to ensure that there's an intergenerational mix. So your Mrs. Langas and the caliber of people that are like Mrs. Langa are going to be there to interact with us, to say, this is our lived experience, for example, in creating policies and in solving problems in whatever space that we're in. And what is it that you guys have now? Because we've got access to knowledge. So the kind of knowledge we have access to is the kind of knowledge that when they were 30, they didn't have access to. So how do we bridge this gap and ensure that we collaborate and work together with Abo Mrs. Langa and Abo Mrs. Weber, who continuously inspire us to be better? But how do we make the spaces we're in better? We can have those conversations about that as well.
Listen here, Obama Fellowship lady, I could listen to you speak all day. Well done for this, well done. We look forward to
Thank you.
following the entire path. As Kwame Nkrumah once said, it is clear that we must find African solutions to African problems. And a united Africa could become one of the greatest forces for the good of the world. And in this thinking, in this initiative, this is why we're backing Breaking Down Borders. It's all about that. We support you. The summit takes place from May the 14th to the 18th in Pretoria and Johannesburg under the theme Africa Youth Building Our Legacy. We're going to take a short break, but on the other side of this, our very own Stefano Dimera. Listen, he's SA's most loved actor. He is Parker Haynes, but sometimes people call him Robert Whitehead. I don't know why, yes. I just have no idea. And welcome back to SABC 3, where the stage is yours. You with Real Talk with Anele. My guest is by far the most loved villain South African television has ever produced. Fight me, okay? He's been in the theatre and film industries for over 40 years. He's a director and he's flown the South African flag so high numerous times. Even in times when he shared the screen with the likes of Idris Elba. He has won numerous awards for his portrayal of villain Parker Haynes, including the inaugural SAFTA for the lead actor in a soap opera in 2006. But before all of this, he was involved in many stage plays, including musicals and pop art theatre, which illustrates that he is a world-class actor and he is ours. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Real Talk, Mr. Robert Whitehead.
I think you've got me mixed up with somebody else, because
Really?
I'm here as part of the Obama Foundation fund, and as a young black woman of 28 with entrepreneurial aspirations, I'm very excited to be part of everything. So I don't know where this other person is. What's his name?
Robert Whitehead.
No, I don't know him.
What a pity. I was looking forward.
Thank you very much for that, and I'm very pleased to be here with you and these other brilliant young people who are really doing something fantastic.
Right.
I wish I was a young 28-year-old black woman.
And you know, it was...
Because I'd be in charge of taking the land away from white people, or breaking down borders that way.
Robert, you're such a good actor that I think you could act as a 28-year-old black woman and pull it off.
No, I'm going to try at the conference.
Are you going to attend?
I think so, yes.
You're going to attend.
Yeah.
It's so, now that we're talking about, our previous guests, it reminds me of an interview you did where you said, as you said, the purpose of arts is to tell the story, the current story that is happening,
Right.
Be in the narrative of what everyone is feeling, and then be the mirror to show them, where we are and what it is that we're doing. Do you think that we're doing that as people in arts?
Well, certainly, yeah. I mean, that's what we should be doing.
Yeah.
And when we are doing, that's when we're at our... When we are doing that, that is when we are at our best.
Yeah.
Which is, we are, in whatever it is that we're involved in, holding up a mirror to society, as it were. Yeah.
How do you know when you're at your best?
Well, that's very hard. You only know sometimes years later that you were at your best then. And you're really quite, what's the word for it? Begins with a P. I can't remember it now.
Okay.
Yes. No, but you don't really know. It depends on the response.
Yeah.
You can tell from the response. You
Yeah.
can tell from an audience and from other people's response to you, to what you're doing, that you're onto something.
But so then, there's a danger though in not knowing that you are currently, operating at your base, so that A, you may know how to stay there, or B, you may even know that, okay, this is my best, but I want to make it better.
Yeah.
Now, if you discover it years later, isn't that a bit terrible?
It's a bit late, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's also the P word. I wish I could remember it, but I just can't.
I'm so scared if you remember it, you're going to get me fired. So, yes, don't remember
no,
it.
I won't remember it. I won't remember it. But I think it depends on as I said, the response. And then when you think back, you think, my goodness, that's when I was so wobbly or unsure of what I was doing with that thing then. And yet people responded in a way that I didn't quite believe at the time that one was doing something as worthwhile as whatever it might have been.
So maybe,
I mean, you know, these brilliant young people now who are going to make all these, I think, extraordinary differences to this continent. You know, wondering what their life experience will be like.
So when you then did Otherwise Engaged, was that your first ever?
Oh gosh, yes, yeah.
And you forgot your lines and you ran off and you hid in a room. And
Oh no, that was not Otherwise Engaged. It was Laughing Wild.
Oh,
it was a production called Laughing Wild, which I did with Vanessa Cook.
was that your first time? Was that your first?
No,
brush?
no. But it was a huge hit at the Market Theatre, and then we went to Grahamstown, and where I found myself sort of walking along the flats, you know, the canvas thing, saying, "What's the next line? What's the next line?" And then one was in such a panic that you couldn't hear. I mean, Vanessa was standing like here next to me, and I still couldn't hear. And then we got to Cape Town. And we were playing a real weird venue. It's a proper theatre, but it's not good for the sort of show that this was, which is sort of like a one-on-one. And I died so completely and catastrophically that I panicked, which is the worst thing any actor or performer can do, is not just take the breath and find your way out of it, whether it's the right place or the wrong place, you will get back to it. But I, for some reason, just panicked. And that's when I ran off the stage and ran up to the dressing room and said, "What's my line? Give me that bloody script." Vanessa was making a cup of tea. And the more I tried to find I was just tearing pages out. And it was
So what's currently
terrible.
happening outside when you ran off to go find your lines?
Nothing. So I came back on stage having just sort of remember I was like green and sweating. And I got through, and it's a terrible thing because every single night after that till the end of the run, I was frightened of it. And I was quite frightened of the stage after that, although I didn't stop because I was terrified, because that does happen to actors, you know, some quite young actors. Something really upsetting like that can happen, and then you get stage fright.
For the rest of your life.
You can do movies, you can do television, everything, but you can never, ever go back on stage. And that's a really nasty, it's a horrible thing to happen to an actor.
Because you also speak of theatre fitness, right? Yeah, and to me, it speaks to that now, would you say you were theatre unfit when that happened?
No, I was extraordinarily fit, actually.
Now that sucks then, because then what must happen?
It was just stupid. I was just being stupid. I just panicked, which you mustn't do. And especially if you're theatre fit.
Yeah.
I mean, if I were to go on stage now.
Okay, I see what you're doing. Okay.
You know, it wouldn't be quite so surprising to you and self that you could be so completely panicked by something.
When we watch you, and I mean, you have lived in our houses, you know, for years. So there was a point when I really felt like I know you, and you know, you're evil and all of that. You make it look really effortless. Now, that's not just being a good actor. There's something else that's driving that. What is that?
Practice. I mean, that's the business of it, is whether you're on the stage or on a screen, for it not to look like you're working, although you're working your ass off, actually. And burning up an enormous amount of energy to appear as if you're having the loveliest time, which is why people still say, when are you going to get a real job? Because a good production or a good something on the TV, then it looks as if everybody's having a lovely time. They don't know that we're absolutely having the most nerve-wracking moments of our lives, you and I, on this stage now, because we look as if we're having such a lovely time, which we are. And then they just think we all have a lovely time all the time.
Meanwhile.
But we're not having a lovely time all the time. Because it's work, it's what you do. And the part of the work is, a great deal of the work is to make it look like you're not working.
That's actually such a profound statement. We're not having a lovely time all the time. We love what we do, but
Yeah.
we're not having a lovely time all the time.
No.
I want to unpack that. For 14 years, he wreaked havoc and disorder in the small town of Horizon Deep. After the break, we're talking about the most prolific villain on Isidingo, Barker Haynes. You can be part of the conversation, please. What's your favorite Barker Haynes moment or a line? Hit us up on WhatsApp and our social media pages. After the break, we discussed that we're not having a lovely time all the time. I know you're thinking, oh, not my Barker. Yes, it's true. Join us.
You won't be so bloody amused when I shut you down, Gabriel.
Shut me down? When all I'm trying to do is check out business opportunities, unless that's left for you and the likes of Lincoln Sibeko.
Don't test me. If you don't believe it's possible for a man to sink lower than the cellar, you're very much mistaken.
Perhaps you shouldn't test me, lest you forget our money laundering episode.
In any drama series, it's the bad guy that keeps us glued to our screens. We all love to hate them. I think it's also because you're just like, how much worse can this guy get? And I promise you, for 13 years, every time I watch Isidingo, Barker was just getting worse. He's been gracing our screens as the ruthless protagonist for the 13 years that I told you about. We've dealt with many villains on our screens, but Barker Haynes has been one of the best. If you just tuned in, we are in conversation with Robert Whitehead. So if you're walking down the street and someone says, hey, Barker, do you turn around?
Yeah?
Yeah, ne?
People call me Barker all the time, always have, and it's never worried me because that's who they know me as. It took some years, I think, for people really, you know, when do you read the credits after the thing? It takes like quite a long time. It's like, I wonder who that is.
Yeah.
I wonder who she is. To have my name recognition,
Yeah.
my real name. But most people say, hey, Barker, and if I've been ever asked to sign an autograph, I always sign it Barker Haynes. They're not interested in me.
Because also
interested
at
in
my house,
Barker.
if now my autograph is there and it says Robert Whitehead, people are like, who's that?
Who's?
Like, who's Robert? Do you dream as Barker?
No.
Never.
I don't think so. No, I can't say I have. I might have had a nightmare about Barker.
Many people
But
have had nightmares.
those are waking ones. When one's waiting to do a scene.
So you said something quite profound earlier. I want to go back to it. Where you said, you know, we love what we do, but we don't love it all the time.
Yeah.
When would you find that you're not loving being on stage or being, you know, in front of the camera? What about you was not right?
Well, that is an interesting question because for the most part, I'm avoiding answering it now, you can tell. For the most part, I have been very lucky in what I've done. But I think there are some things that you've done because you've had to do it for whatever reason.
Yeah.
Whether it's the money or there's been a political reason as to why you should have to do it.
Yeah.
And if you take that job, it'll be good for the da-da-da. It's those kinds of things which any career in any field of endeavor is full of. And you just know it, that it's what you're doing is not what you really want to do, and it's not important, however, and I don't mean that in a pompous sort of important, not in that sense, but in the sense that you are part of something that is going to make something else happen.
I was watching, it's about a 2-minute clip on YouTube where you're talking about, you know, being healthy and taking care of yourself, and that you recently lost 24 kilograms, and and you found it.
Where was this done? I'd love to see that clip.
I know that. You know, you like lose weight. You're like, oh, I lost 10 kilograms, but it found me again. So here we are. I know that feeling. Trust me. You and I have the same struggles. But what you did say in that 2-minute clip is that, you know, I feel great and it was nice to take care of myself, and, you know, I just started feeling loved again. Now, to me, that was like, wow. Everyone feels that way, but I don't think people will easily admit to it, right? That, you know, when you lose the weight and you get the compliments and people like you for it, and, you know, people are complimenting you.
When you started to like yourself
Exactly. That's what I wanted to ask you. Is you thinking that people are liking you, just maybe you liking yourself again because you feel great?
I really do think you're right. I think you might have something there. I think you've just answered it, because you are feeling. You like yourself more. So you take people's like for you more readily than you do perhaps at other times.
So was it then not difficult to be on TV? He's looking at his stomach. This guy, look at him. He's having a moment of days of thinner life. I know that. I know that feeling when you look at yourself, and you know when you look at yourself and you thought you were fat then, and then you're like, no, this is actually the fat. Was it not difficult to be on TV every single day when at times you don't feel good about the way you look?
Yeah, it's not great. And I found it, one finds it quite hard. You find ways of making it work, because it has to work, because you can't stop it working. I mean, I was Barker often enough, skinny or this size or whatever. If I wanted to go on stage, and they said, no, we want you, but you're only going to go, we want you, we're only in 3 or 4 months, but you need to lose 7 Ks and blah, blah, blah. I would do it. That's what you do, because you do, as you say, feel better about yourself. But if the question you're asking, if you feel if you're not liking yourself particularly, and you're feeling not so wonderful, does it make it harder? It does make it harder, but you have to make it work somehow in yourself and for your character, and then.
So you've never turned down something because you were feeling like fat? I've done that where sometimes I don't even go to a function. I'm like, I don't have a dress to wear. I don't want to be on the red carpet looking like 3 continents, walking sideways at once. I'm not going there. So have you ever done that?
Yeah, a lot.
Ooh.
I think mainly because I sort of got tired of it more than not, because I'd always just pinch something from, not pinch, borrow something from the wardrobe that I'd look nice in for a red carpet and whatever. But it's not the end of the industry after a while that interests me anymore. I mean, I hate an awards ceremony of any sort, and I think they're a very bad and dangerous thing. And there seems to be an award for anything. There's the best flower arranging award.
That's the best scarf.
The best scarf award. It's just endless and ridiculous and very damaging, I think. But that's a whole other thing. You didn't ask me about awards. I just told you.
Luckily, we've still got some time.
Well, I've said that.
Listen, Robert hung up his soapy boots late last year to direct a play called The Man Jesus, and was nominated for the Irish Times Best New Play in 2013. When we return, we'll talk about life after Barker Haynes. Stay with us. So Robert hung up his soapy boots late last year to direct a play called The Man Jesus that was nominated for the Irish Times Best New Play in 2013. Now, what I want to know from him is, when you decide you're going to leave a role, right, as big as Barker Haynes, you don't just decide on Tuesday that on Wednesday you leave.
No, and you can't do that. It has to be a process that is worked out by all the departments. At that stage, they knew I was taking leave to direct this wonderful play.
Yes.
Because Isidingo is one of the shows that does encourage its actors, especially if you've been in the theatre, to go back into the theatre fairly regularly as an actor to keep yourself kind of fresh.
Yes.
But there's ways as an actor of kind of moving through rehearsals and only rehearsing certain times, and once it's up and running, you can go back to work. But as a director, you really have to do everything, as I'm sure you know.
Yeah.
And so I did take the time to do that. And so everybody was aware of it for
a long time. Going into it.
But then it was decided that I should take, how should one say it? A longer leave. So I took a longer leave, and now I'm a spook. Ek is die spook van Barker.
Oh, so you keep on coming back as the ghost?
No, I don't know.
Do you
I'm not
float?
coming back at all.
Do you float?
But the man Jesus was it's Jesus' fault. And I love Jesus, and Jesus loves me, but it's his fault. But I really do think Barker was past his sell-by date. It was time, and I had done everything that I could think of over all those years, 100 different ways.
But you said the more of other things you do teaches you to be a better and a different kind of Barker. So doesn't that mean that after this longer break, you could come back and reinvent Barker in another way?
Maybe. We'll see. Who knows? It's a mystery to us all. Shame he died, that little one.
I know,
Did you see? So, anyway, I've put myself off now. Yes.
Okay.
We were talking about. Am I having a seniorish sort of Barker?
Yes.
Yeah. As an actor, yes.
Yeah.
As a director, I don't know. But I mean, already by that time, at the end of last year, it was now like, what, 15 years or something, 14 years. So it was all right. It was good. And so I'm in the process of what I've done for most of my life. Be a freelance actor.
Yeah.
So I'm back being a freelance actor. I forgot how lousy that can be. Sometimes a regular gig, and that Barker Haynes was a fantastic gig. You never, ever. Because whoever you are and whoever you've been and whatever it is and all the rest of it, when you leave there, you leave there, and you're back in the big bad world. And you have to kind of try and make that work for you, which is hard. And I'm not very good at it, because I'm not very good at making work for myself.
It's like dating after being married for 32 years, and then you get divorced.
Yes, I should imagine so, yeah.
And there's no Tinder. High five.
Thank you.
I'm happy with myself. But I love the fact that you've always spoken so highly about Isidingo, and we always agreed with you, because you once said Isidingo is not written like a soapy. It's not, we don't act it out like it's a soapy. It's not filmed like it's a soapy. Yet it falls under the category of soapy in South Africa, and you must just take it as that. But it's greater than just a soapy, right?
Well, we used to like to call it, or we still do like to call it, a daily drama.
Yeah.
And I come back to the point, is at our best, we're extremely good. Because all the different stories and all the different characters related somehow or were involved in what is happening to us now. Like me going to Botswana with President Obama to open the conference.
Oh, yeah. Okay, I see.
For youth.
For
black
the youth. For the 35-year-old black woman, Barker. Listen, one thing that I found about, your role as Barker was everywhere you went, we were always trying to imitate you and things that you had said. And apparently our WhatsApp line is going mad with people imitating you. So we want to play you one of them. Please, can you roll it?
I like that part when he was saying, "You barge into my office. I'll sort you out myself. So, back off!"
Oh, I wish I could do it like that. Okay?
Was that just your life? People coming up to you and, Sherelle.
Yes.
Huh?
Where's Sherelle? What have you done with her?
Yeah.
And I'd just say, I locked her in the icebox. She's in the freezer.
Yeah.
Whatever. Silliness. So we've always had a nice time.
And to wrap it up, Pumla Hopper
Yes, indeed.
was speaking after we sadly lost Ashley Kelly, and she said the one thing she'll always remember Ashley for was that Ashley protected, her character,
Very
Lee.
much so.
What does that mean? I didn't know what it meant. What does it mean to protect your character?
It means that you don't necessarily allow any old person, and when I say any old person, I don't mean you don't allow another director or another actor or another whatever try and no more than you do, shift you from your path. There's a discussion to be had. Yeah. There are points to be listened to, absolutely all that. But once you are found and are developing your character, and it's in a constant state of development, we are never the same. Yeah. You're not the same today as you were on Saturday. You were on an aeroplane somewhere.
Yes.
Or something, I don't know, I was eavesdropping.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? So then you're another sort of person. But Ashley was fierce about her work. And it's never quite, losing her was a terrible thing. It's never quite been the same. It was never quite the same.
And I just felt like you guys were going through tragedy. Then, you lost her, and then there's the fire later on in life.
Fire.
I was just like, can Isitingo catch a break?
It was just terrible those years.
Yeah.
It was just like one awful thing after the other.
Yeah.
But we did it. We survived it and we did it. I don't know how, but we did. Because what do they say? And I never understand why they say it, but they do. As we say, the show must go on. And bloody hell it must, It's absolutely ridiculous, but it must. You have to do it.
The show must go on. Look, this one must go on as well. Tell you what, after we say goodbye, Isitingo plays. So obviously the show must go on and it's better. Listen, he should be treated with the same respect for his long service and for the fact that he's completely different from the man that he portrayed, as we do any of the greats that we always mention when we get asked who do we like. Unfortunately, that's all we have time for this evening. I thank you. I'd like to thank my guest, Lorato, Tulile, as well as Robert Whitehead. Tomorrow is your job making you sick? Do you hate waking up to go to work? We touched on this earlier. Were you dismissed unfairly? 1st of May means Workers' Day, and we are all about the workers tomorrow, 6 p.m. on SABC 3. Do not be late. Good night. Isitingo is up next. Ciao.